Hello friends. I felt the calling to do a reading today for the collective and see what the cards have to say, and how that's going to play out a little bit for us. As individuals, the work that we do with our own self is obviously impacting into the collective, and so a deeper self-awareness is really valuable at this point in time, so that we can really be putting in the energy from our own center of our being into the collective consciousness, and helping to support that consciousness to elevate, and for that frequency to rise for us. So I decided to pull a few cards and share them with you, because I feel like they're important for all of us. And if you've come to this space where you're watching this reading, well then thank you for being here, and thank you for listening, and take what resonates for you and discard what doesn't, I suppose. But it's quite a beautiful layout that we've got happening here. So it's a layout that I've created my own self, and we start off with the center point, which is what's happening in this moment, and then we move down a stream on this side over here, and that stream is about the inner journey and what's needing to be seen, felt, and heard in that space, and what reflects into the outer journey from there. So what's needed to bring that inner and outer journey into a balance point. And then we have a couple cards in the center point, just giving us that conclusion of the story that's unfolded here. So yesterday we had an incredible astrology workshop here at Gunya Community, and it's really potent to really get into the astrology and look at what's happening, because the connections, and it's just phenomenal. So it's really interesting that the very first card that we have that's come out is the card of skywriting, and it's called the Fates. And so it really feels to me that we've got all this astrological stuff happening at the moment, and the stuff that is written in the stars, and that we can navigate through, following the astrology that's happening, and really immersing into that, and seeing, oh, this is, there's all of these things that are unfolding and moving for us, and there's that stuff that's that's written in the stars. And even on a collective, an individual level, on an individual level, we have that which we've come down to learn and to experience and to journey through. Yet the interesting thing with the card of the Fates is that whilst we may have written the outline of this journey, and what it is that it's going to look like on an individual level as well as a collective level, it's what we do with that is important. So while there's that there, and there's this idea of destiny and fate, it's what do we do with that story? How do we navigate that in our own selves? And from that space, we write the story of our experiences ourselves. So whatever's moving in your individual world, as well as all the stuff that's going on for the collective in this space, it's what we do with that. How do we write our story into that which is already destined or fated as such? So we have that choice. How do we journey? How do we navigate through this? Do we move into that fear-based reality? Do we immerse more into that more love-based reality? Are we able to bring ourselves into a center point, into a balanced space where we navigating those polarities from a space where we hold each of them as valuable, because they are. My beautiful mentor Kathleen used to say to me, when she was working with me and supporting me on my healing journey, that the shadow spaces of ourselves and the dark spaces of ourselves and the world and whatever's moving all have a rightful place at the altar of existence. And I know for me personally, I've in my own life, what I was fated to experience was a very intense experience from a young child all the way through up into my adult years. And really, the final healing for me in a lot of my trauma only happened at the beginning of last year. And then now I'm moving into this other space where I'm healing my relationship with the masculine energy and so on. And so it's been a long journey. I'm turning 43 next week. So, 43 years of moving through this intense struggle and the stuff that was fated, but it was what I did with that that has made the difference. Yes, I collapsed into those dark sides of myself, but I've traveled right into those shadows and right to the furthest extremes of my being, so that I can also do that on the opposite side. I can only go as high as I go deep. And so, how do we traverse this and navigate this world that's happening around us, the world that's happening within us? There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety. There's even for my own self, I'm separated from my family in South Africa, and so there's a lot of anxiety around that has the tendency to emerge every so often, and I just have to keep bringing myself back into the center point, so that I don't collapse too much into that fear. And when am I going to see them again? Am I going to need to have this vaccine to go and see my family, or are they going to have to do it to come and see me? What does the future hold for travel for me to get from here to South Africa? And all these questions, and it's so easy for those questions to just really merge into this space where I'm going, oh my God, this is so scary. And so I'm really conscious of how I'm being in this space of what's happening in the world. Am I really buying into that fear, or can I keep myself grounded and centered and hold that space of love and truth and authenticity and bring through what I know is true and real for me? And what's true and real for me is not this fear-based reality that's been impressed upon us. It doesn't sit with me. And so I'm choosing very consciously how it is that I am navigating what has been fated. And thankfully, my life, I suppose, has geared me up for that. And, that my journey through healing has geared me up to be able to navigate this space now from a centered and aligned point. So there's a lot of choices that we need to be making as individuals, so that we can be bringing to the collective from a different space, a space that is in alignment with what is true and real for us. It's not collapsing into that fear-based reality, and that's holding ourselves strong, because the structures are collapsing. There's all these things that are shifting and changing, and life no longer looks the same. We have no idea what the future holds, whereas before we were so easily able to navigate life because it was the same stuff. And so, yes, I know this place, and so on. And now we're on this journey where we don't know, and a lot of the ways that we've navigated in the past no longer serve, because we're in such unknown territory. So it's really about, how do we choose to navigate this journey? How do we choose to hold ourselves within what is fated and what is destined to be and what is destined to unfold? And if we can watch that, watching the astrology and watching what that aspect, we have clues that are offered to us. And so this is the sort of the theme for what this reading is where do we stand, and where do we choose to stand, and how do we choose to stand, and how do we choose to express from ourselves into this collective experience and into this world around us. And so it's really important for us to be in that space where we can discover that center point. The healing journey now is no longer simply about the individual. Any healing journeys that we need to embark on now is really about the collective. It's about bringing that healing energy in for all of humanity, for all life on this earth, for our planet herself. It's about the collective now, and that's where the focus is. It's not just the soul journey anymore and dealing with our own traumas and so on. Yes, we still navigate and move through that, but it's not about just healing for our own selves. Any healing work we're doing it for the collective. We're doing it for Mother Earth. We're doing it for nature and for the animals and the creatures. We need to bring that consciousness in and through, so that we can make the shifts which are already unfolding, and we can see that in the world around us. But it's where do we choose to stand on that sort of spectrum of experience. So then moving into the inner journey and reflecting into the outer journey, the next card that we have is Mindful. not mindful as in being mindful of how we're thinking and so on. And I really like this card because this is the way that I actually see that word mindfulness, and I'm not that fond of it, to be honest, because it denotes a sense of having a full mind, and whereas mindfulness is supposed to be more about, you know, being more in the awareness and so on. So for me, the way that this card is expressed really resonates, because the languaging in that word mindful is so important. And the mindful card is about the underlying tone of it is groupthink. So it's really about listening and being listening to what's happening in the world around, but not getting caught up in it, really sitting with what it is, that with the information that's coming through, and really feeling into your own self, what is it out of this that is true and real for me? Because we can get caught up in that fear-based thinking. It's really easy if you're watching the news and you're reading the newspapers and you're really getting into that side of thinking. Well, it's so easy to get caught into that, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're far down the stream of chaos, really. I think I don't watch the news, I don't read the newspapers, I am not ignorant by all means. I take in from different people, and I speak to the right people. I speak to people that bring me the information from a more objective point of view, and it's not, oh, it's this, you know, this thing happening on the news or in this show telling me about this, that, and the next thing. I'm not getting caught up in those stories, because that's all just feeding us and trying to feed into us that fear-based stuff. So it's really about being able to be mindful of all the stuff that's going out there, and then filtering that through the lens of what is authentically true for you. You know, what is real, what is the deeper essence of life and who we are and who we choose to be. And essentially, for me as an individual, I know that all I long for in this life is to love and be loved. Simple as that. What is the underlying energy and essence of life for me? Well, it's love. That's what it is. And so if I can bring love to this thinking that's happening on a mass scale, well, then I can start sifting and shifting through these stories and these beliefs, and I can feel in where is it that I sit in this, and I can bring that lens of love into what I'm looking at, so that I can see it from a different space, from a more heart and soul-centered space, as opposed to this mindful thinking space. And what needs to happen on the outer experience to really move through that is the card of deep quiet, which is meditation and stillness. So really, yes, we on the inner realms, we filled up with all of these stories, all this information that's coming in from the outside world, and it can be bombarding at the best of times. So what do we do with that? Well, in the external reality, well, let's be in the stillness of that. Let's sit in the space where we can empty that all out and really feel into that truth of love, the true energy that, you know, that moves through everything, even these negative spaces and these dark shadow spaces that we're moving through. Love lives there too. And you know, and I've learned that on my own personal journey, that all the things that have happened in my life, you know, all the trauma and all of the things that I've carried or had carried for such a long time, love lived there too. And so in the face of all of the things that are moving in this world, love lives there too. And it's up to us to go and seek that out within those spaces. And in the words of our beautiful friend Pete, who's been in our space here at Gunya for the past few days, you know, that's combing the shadows. That's going into those shadow spaces and combing through and seeing where do I need to shine the light of love into these spaces. What spaces within myself require me to go inwards and shine the light of love into them? And what spaces in the external, where can I shine the light of love into the outer world? And I can only shine that light of love when I'm allowing myself to be able to be in the stillness within the chaos. So as far as meditation goes, it would, you know, really good practices to be in what we're moving through is to do some form of movement meditation where you're moving, but you're finding that still space within the movement. And I feel that that's a really, really important space for us to be able to navigate now. It's how do we stay centered within all the chaos that may be moving around us on a personal, individual level, as well as on that from that collective perspective as well. So it's really about being able to center into that space in ourselves, that space where that deeper essence of universal love lives. So it's really coming into that heart-centered way of expressing and being and walking in the world. It's really connecting in with spirit and being in that soul essence space, out of the human mind thinking, out of the monkey mind and all of the chatter that goes on up here, but really calling ourselves into the space where we can feel centered and we can feel strong within the face of what's moving. Yes, we have the human condition. Yes, the anxiety is going to arise. Yes, there's going to be the fear that arises. Absolutely, but it's how we navigate through that. What am I choosing in myself when those spaces do arise in me? And for me, I'm choosing to go, okay, yes, I'm carrying this fear. I'm carrying this fear of separation from my family. I'm carrying this fear of navigating this journey that I'm on without having my family with me. Many of you know that I'm on the path to have a baby. And so for me, that's huge, you know, going to be a single mother and have a baby, and my family being over there and me over here. That's a huge thing. And there's a bit of anxiety that arises with that, you know. So how do I choose then to navigate that? Well, I'm choosing to just keep constantly bringing myself back to heart, bring myself back to heart, bring myself back to those quiet spaces, bringing myself back to the absolute deeper truth of life. And that deeper truth at the end of the day is that we are life, experiencing life, and life wants to know it all. You know, consciousness wants to know all aspects of itself. Hence why we have such vast polarity, you know, hence we've got all this stuff going on. That's consciousness wanting to meet itself in every possible way. And so from that space, if I can recognize that, then I can recognize that this is simply life experiencing itself at a deeper level of polarity. And again, quoting Pete, because he's a very incredible man. Thank you, Pete, for all your wisdom that you bring. He explained this concept of duality and polarity, and it was from some tradition. I don't remember the details, but I remember the details of this understanding, which I think that's all I need to remember. So duality, he was saying, you know, it's having two opposing sides that are discriminating against each other. And so this side's going, I'm right, you're wrong, and this side's going, no, I'm right, you're wrong. And so there's this pushing against and away from each other, because you know, there's that energy, I suppose. Whereas polarity is you've got these two sides still, but they're discriminating with each other, is the way he put it. So in essence, you've got these polarities, and they're going, oh, well, this is how I see things. Oh, yeah, okay, and this is how I see things. I don't necessarily agree, but hey, let's swap some information. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about this. Let's see how we can work out a way where we can find that middle ground, and we can discriminate with each other, where we can bring, oh, I like that teaching that you hold there. I can see that wisdom there. And the other side goes, yeah, and I can see the wisdom of that too. Okay, now we're bringing it into a middle ground point, and into a very different space. So moving on from there, the next card we've got is Fortune's Wheel, and it's the card of luck and right timing. And I was sitting just sitting with this card because I laid the spread out before I decided to start recording, because I just wanted to sit with it for a bit. And I was looking at Fortune's Wheel, and I thought, okay, luck and right timing. for the collective, for sure, okay, but what about for some of us that aren't really in that space? What about those of us that are actually still journeying that shadow space? How does that fit, you know? And then I reflected into my own life, and I reflected into the, you know, into the traumas and the difficulties and so on that I've had. And I thought about it, and I thought, okay, you know, there's areas in my life where, you know, there was really shitty stuff, you know, and intense stuff that created lots of emotional confusion and all sorts. And I thought, well, how does that then apply to those sorts of scenarios? And it got me thinking about the space where I've just been talking about with these polarities, and where do I sit in these things. And you know, if you're sitting on this side of the spectrum, and it's maybe, say, let's call this side the, you know, the shadow spaces, and you're sitting in the shadow spaces, and that's where you're at the moment, and you know, it just seems like you keep getting bad luck and wrong timing. Well, then I thought about it from that perspective of creation and ourselves creating that journey. I thought, well, then it goes to, I don't know, it just goes to show that we're still creating that. So even if it's bad luck and wrong timing, we're bringing that in. And if it's good luck and right timing, well, we're bringing that in too. And I can see in myself and in my own journey, and I will always reflect back to my journey, because that's what I'm, you know, it's obviously the space from which I'm sharing, and so I can only share from that space in myself. And in my own journey, I know when I'm in the space of, you know, I'm stuck up in here, I'm stuck up in that way of thinking and those beliefs, and all of that stuff's moving for me. Life just presents me with more of that, more of the same. And I sit there going, why am I getting all of this shit? Why is this happening all the time for me? And it's then when I'm in these spaces where I'm, you know, where I'm at now in myself, where I'm aligned and I'm centered, and yes, and I'm deeply aware and deeply observational and deeply self-reflective, I can see how I'm creating, and life seems to just unfold in this natural, easeful, graceful way, which is so different to when I'm in the space and I'm caught up in the emotions and the thinking and the stories and the beliefs, and you know, and I'm really sitting shackled to this experience, and as opposed to being the deeper, greater, aware presence of that experience. And when I can pull myself out of those shackles and go, okay, well, here's the human having the experience, but here's the soul over here witnessing this experience and going, okay, what am I learning here? What needs to shift and change for me? What needs to be seen, felt, heard, and expressed? How can I bring this through in a different way that serves my higher purpose, that serves my highest good? And the card on the outer experience of that, which I thought was really beautiful, is the jeweled web and our connectivity. And the jeweled web is really talking about this divine, you know, this web of creation that we're all a part of. And it just brings me to this, you know, to that feeling of the spider at the center of her web, and she's created all of these things, and her web catches all these little bits of information, and it's up to us which little pieces do we choose to take, what do we need to discard and get rid of out of our web, so that we're creating and bringing through that fortune's wheel, so where we, you know, oh, this little bit here, this is valuable, I'm gonna hold that, I'm gonna bring that into my treasure chest, and place that into the space of, you know, of what is true and real, what is resonant for me, and what is it that I choose, how I choose to journey, what is it that I choose to bring. And then from there, fortune's wheel has no choice but to respond, you know. And I think sometimes, and I'm just noticing here as well, as I've looked down, Fortune's Wheel is the card of 23, and the Jeweled Web is the card of 32. So we've got this mirror happening, which is so perfect for what I was just about to say. So we've got this mirror of experience that happens. Whatever's happening in this inner realm, whatever's moving in this space, is then reflected into the outer reality. And it takes a little bit of time sometimes for the outer reality to catch up. Sometimes it's like this, and I notice that in my life. Sometimes I'm in this space, I'm like boom, 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 and the outer reality just connecting in, and it's like, whoa, that's amazing. Other times it takes longer. Other times I sit there and I'm doing the work, and I'm in that space, and I'm doing the manifestations and bringing through all that I want to bring through, and I'm sitting there going, why is it taking so long? What is going on? I'm putting in the effort, I'm doing all this stuff, but it takes time sometimes, especially when we're moving through things that are deeply embedded in who we are and how we've been. And not who we are in the truth of who we are, but who we've been choosing to be. When we have deeply embedded stories and beliefs that are there, it takes time for us to truly change those, and it takes time for us to shift out of those old beliefs into the new beliefs. And as we're doing that, the universe is working behind the scenes and bringing in those jewels of information. And sometimes those jewels are not necessarily the things that we choose and we want. They might be something completely opposite to what we're calling in, and we go, well, hold on, I didn't call that in, I wanted this, why is this showing up? Then we have to actually ask ourselves, okay, well, why is this showing up? What do I need to see in this jewel that is coming through as a discomfort? What do I need to see here that is going to shift and change something in me, that's going to shift and change a perspective or a story or a belief? What needs to move? And all of these things that bring through the discomfort as well as the comfort, there is richness in there. Love lives there. Love lives there because there's something in it that is of value. It's of value for your own being and how you choose to be in your life, how you choose to be in this human experience. What is my soul learning here? And when we can really grasp that, and we can really start listening to what's coming in all of these places, we can take those jewels and we can transform them. Especially the ones that are a bit icky and discomforting. We can take them, we can shift through them, we can transform them, and then they become valuable because there's a rich, valuable learning that is available to us in all aspects. And so the spider just comes in to say, hey, you can capture all the bits and pieces that you choose, and then it's up to you to really do with that what you choose, and to be fully aligned, really standing in your strength and your power in what it is that you're wanting for yourself. So then we move along from there, and we've got the hollow bone, which is the card of teachability. And one of the things in shaman traditions, what the shaman does is, it's this hollowing out. And hollowing out is a preparation that is done to really just empty the vessel. So it's, getting out of that mindful that we had in the beginning. It's really getting out of that, emptying that all out. So that we've got this, so that we are this hollow structure that is able to then draw in the new learnings that need to come through. So we need to start letting go of everything that we think we know, because a lot of it no longer applies to how we're navigating this new journey. And so it's really letting go of everything we think we know. And even with the, from a collective perspective, all the things that we think we know about these structures that are in place, education, and what that looks like, our medical systems, what that looks like, all these, our governance systems and what those look like. Letting go of everything we think we know and allowing this new way to emerge, because it's going to emerge whether we like it or not, and we can already see it happening. And we wouldn't have all of this intensity coming from the powers that be trying to really push that fear in if those changes weren't already happening, if they weren't afraid that their structures were collapsing. this is what is happening. And we can see it all around us. We can see the uprising. We can see the shifts in people and in their way of being. And it's phenomenal. So it's really about, you know, letting go of all those stories, letting go of the beliefs that we hold that may have served us in the past, and letting the new emerge, letting the new arise in us. And I know for me as well, coming back to my experience again, you know, coming from, you know, this new realm of being in my world, my whole world has shifted and changed drastically. And I can't apply these old ways of thinking. And this was quite some time back, I was having a conversation with a very close friend, and she brought back something that I'd said to her and placed that before me and said, yeah, but what about that, Tats, you know, like you shared that. And I said to her, I sat there and I went quiet for a bit, and I said to her, you know what, that was true for me then, when I said it, when I wrote it, when I spoke it, whatever it was, when I was in that place. That was true for me then, but I've expanded now. My learning has expanded. I've learned these lessons on deeper levels as the spiral of, you know, of expansion has been happening. And I'm coming back to this lesson, and I'm going, there's a deeper level that's emerging in that learning. And so that no longer applies. It no longer applies in my life for me. And whilst I've written it, and I think it's what I can't remember what the topic was, but it's written in my book, and it no longer applies in my life. It was valuable in that learning, in that experience, in that journey of what I was doing in that time. But now my world looks completely different. It's not valuable anymore. The journey is completely different. So it's really allowing us to just hollow out and let go of information. And you know, I no longer really hold on to inane information anymore. It just filters through, because I feel like I need to have space in me to be able to bring in the new stuff that's coming through. So I need to constantly be just, it's like a sweep out of the mental capacities, of the emotional capacities, of the spiritual capacities, even the physical body. I've got this image of just sweeping out and just clearing out the unnecessary bits and pieces that no longer need to be there, and looking at some of the trinkets that may still be there, you know, that were valuable, and going, oh, you know, I don't really need that anymore. And yes, it holds some memory and so on, and that's beautiful, but I can let that go now. I can pass that on, or I can bury that, or whatever it is that needs to be done with that little aspect. So constantly cleaning the self on all levels: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Just cleaning out, so that this new can keep coming in, and we can really start, you know, learning this new way of being, learning this Aquarian way of being, where we're no longer in the Piscean age, where we completely subject to the emotional background, where now we're holding the vessel and directing the flow of energy. We're directing where we place our emotion, and emotion is energy in motion. You know, it's the labels that we put to it that then create the story around what that energy is. But essentially, emotion is energy in motion. So where am I directing the flow of energy in motion in my life? So we're in a much more controlled space now, where we're owning this space, and we're not subject to it anymore. And on the outer spaces of that, what comes in is the covenant card, which is a sacred contract. And so as we learn in these new ways, we need to start making new ways of contracting with ourselves, with others, in relationship with others, even, you know, on that more broad spectrum, global scale and grand collective scale. We need to have new ways of being. And so the covenant for me is really, it's very potent in understanding and knowing, what is it that I choose for myself? What is it that I choose for the collective? because like I said in the beginning, it's no longer just about the individual journey. It's no longer this selfish space of here I am. It's now about, okay, how am I impacting the world around me through my thoughts, through my feelings, through my actions, through my spoken word, through my way of being? How am I impacting the collective? How am I bringing this energy in, and how am I influencing that? So what is it that I need to, hold in sacred contract within myself? For me, being in my authentic expression is right up there. If as long as I know I'm in that authentic expression of truth and love for myself, then I know I'm in the space of this divine journey. So I've done my sacred contracts. I've done a few. I've done some on the new moons and burnt those and sent them off into the ether. I've got them in my journal. I've got all these things where I'm really bringing myself into an absolute clarity of what exactly it is that I choose for myself in my life on all levels. In relationship with others, what types of friends and people do I choose to draw into my experience and call into my tribe? What kind of impact do I want to have on on society on a larger scale? So how do I bring my work forward in a way that's going to be from my soul and from my heart, with absolute love and absolute honoring of each person? How can I bring that forward in a way that is going to serve and open minds, open hearts, and open souls to be able to really journey from a deeper space? So really feeling into what it is that you choose for yourself. Recreate your contracts. And that also means eliminating any old contracts that you may have had that don't serve you, whether it's in this life or in previous lives, down your ancestral lineage, whatever that is. I've been doing lots of contract clearing, lots and lots, and even through relationships and friendships where people have moved out of my world. I've been in the observation of that and going, okay, so what was the learning there? What did I gain from that? What is it then that I now know about myself, how I have been in relationship with others, how they've seen me and how they've responded or reacted to me, how I've responded or reacted to them? How can I shift that? How can I let that go and move into a new realm of being? And so I'm very clear in myself now of what it is that I choose. What am I willing to accept? What am I not willing to accept? Where do I need to stand firm and strong in my truth? Where can I compromise a little bit and be a little bit more flexible? And being absolutely clear on those places in myself. And then how do I choose to walk in the world? And how do I impact the world from that space? So many of you will know that I'm a fire performer as well, and so I'm using my shows now to bring through deeper messages. It's not just about putting a little conglomeration of songs together and throwing some flames around and going, oh, there you go, I'm a fire twirler. I'm not a fire twirler. I'm a performing artist, and I bring something deeper with my fire. I'm using that as a tool to move people into a different way of seeing, thinking, feeling, being. And so far, the responses that I've had from people have just been absolutely phenomenal, and I feel so blessed to be able to bring that forward. So I'm using all of these things that I do in my life on a personal level and a working level. I'm using those tools and those skills and those abilities as a way of impacting the collective and bringing through this opportunity for others to open up and to be more conscious beings, so that we can really elevate and really anchor into this 5D that's unfolding for us now. It's no longer just about this survival mode and this earth-based reality. We're really moving into a whole different level of deeper awareness, which is so powerful. So really feeling into yourself, making those sacred contracts and really connecting in what is true and real for me, what is true and real for the world. Where can I send my prayers and my energy of love out into the world? So yeah, so moving on from there, we go into the sky bridge, which is the possibility for union. And when I looked at this card, and I'd been feeling into what was coming through, it really felt like the polarities, you know, this and I thought about Pete's sharing about, you know, being in polarity and discriminating with each other. It really, I really felt into that, and that's what I saw in this card. And I thought, well, is it possible that we can have, you know, we can have these other ways of seeing and being and so on, and we can bring that into a space of union where we are in that point of going, you know, yes, we can take these leaps of faith, and we can really, you know, jump forward and do what needs doing on a bigger level, on a level where, yes, we can honor the differences in each other, but we can be in our differences, we can be in our individuality, and still be able to, you know, bring this unity in, you know. So just as I'm talking, I'm just picturing, different, like the racism that moves in the world, and the religious conflict that moves in the world, and the possibility that we can actually allow others to be exactly who and how they are, to believe in whatever it is that they choose to believe in, and we can honor each other's differences. And I truly believe that is possible. And I've seen it in personal experience where no, I don't necessarily agree with another, and that's okay, but we are able to still be in relationship from a space of love, from a space of compassion, from a space of acceptance, and we can honor each other's differences. We can honor, that we don't necessarily see things the same way, and that's okay, but we can bring it together in a way that we can make those differences even work for us. If we were all one way, then we'd never get anything done. And so it's really about seeing, looking in, where do our individual strengths lie, and how can we bring those individual strengths into the collective experience, so that we can work together to create this new world that we really wish to have. And in the imagery of this, there's this amazing sun portal that's sitting at the top of them. I'll just show you the card. That's probably an easier way. So you can see the two pillars, and if you look between the stairs, you can see that there's nothing really joining them. And so there's a bit of fear that might arise through that, because we got to take these leaps, and if we miss a little bit, well, we're going to go and then we're falling into an abyss below of who knows what. But the thing with this card that I feel is that if all those stairs were sort of joined together, we would easily just run up and leap from step to step to step with no problem. But it's just the mental side of it, where it sees those gaps between, that says, oh shit, hold on, maybe I can't actually do this, maybe it's not safe. But if it was all conjoined, we would just be leaping no problem. And so it's really about us needing to step and leap beyond that fear, take a leap of faith, and trust in ourselves, trust in our ability to create the changes that we need to create, because we have that ability. Every single one of us, we have the ability to change things for our own lives. We have the ability to impact the collective, and we have the ability to stand together to make the changes in this world that we really, really, really choose to see. And so there's such potential, such possibility, but we just need to get beyond the fear and take the jumps. Be strong and be the warriors that we are, and stand firm in what is true, real, and authentic for us. And what's on the other side of that, which is really, really beautiful. So I'm going to show you this one individually first, and then I'm going to show you them together. So we have this possibility for union, and then we have this card called the Watchers, and it's the card of it's transpersonal. So again, coming back to that space where it's no longer about the individual, it's about the collective. It's bigger than us. There's a bigger picture playing out. And so our individual journeys we need to start looking at them from the perspective that this individual journey here has a very powerful impact in the collective journey. So whatever work I'm doing here, I'm doing for the collective. It's not just about me anymore. And then let's just have a look at these two together, because it really, it brings, we've got this possibility for union with these two pillars and so on. And then we've got this singularity. Isn't that fantastic? You know, so on the inner journey, if we can bring that space in, that unity space, that unity consciousness in, then we can be impacting that out into the collective over here and bringing that unity in together. So isn't that powerful? What an amazing mirror that we've had play out here. And so then we come into the center space, and the center space, we've got two cards, and it's really just rounding off what has come through for us in this reflective inner outer experience that's been happening. And the first card that comes through is the Dragon's Hoard, and it's protecting the future. So all of these jewels that we've gathered through this web of connectivity, all of these learnings and all of these little bits and pieces that just, you know, that we want to put into this treasure chest that I mentioned earlier. The reason I mentioned it was because of this card. You know, a dragon always protects some kind of a treasure, whether it's jewels or a princess or something, but in the fairy tales, a dragon is always protecting something. And so it's taking in these jewels and really bringing in this space of authentic truth for ourselves, and then being protective of that and protective of that space, not allowing for the things that don't serve, that not allowing for the old stories to come back in and play out, not allowing for, you know, these energies that we just don't want in our world, not allowing them to come into our field. Really just being protective of the space and what that holds, because each of us holds such valuable richness, and we need to honor that. We need to protect that. We need to be in the space where, you know, where we really in the deep honoring of the treasure that we carry. And from that space, if we've got this, you know, we're protecting our future, we're protecting, you know, who we are, how we're choosing to be and express into the world from the space of our deepest authentic truth at an essence level of love, of universal love. When we're coming from there and we're protecting that, then you know, we carry that light in the center of our being, which means that any obstacle, any wall, anything that arises for us, we have everything that we need right at the center of our being to overcome that. And then the challenges that come through are no longer so intense. So to summarize that, you know, it's really important for us to really find that authentic space and to be living from that space and standing strong and firm in who we are, and standing strong and firm as a collective. You know, there's that power in that collective energy. I love doing group work because you've got all of these people all bringing in this energy, and it's so much more powerful. You know, it's just as powerful on your own, so don't get me wrong, I'll rephrase that. It's so much more powerful. It's just as powerful as a singularity, but if we can bring that unity consciousness in, well, then we're making a bigger stand. We're really connecting into what it is that we truly choose for ourselves as a collective, you know, for humanity and for all life, including our Mother Earth. So yeah, I hope that you got something out of that, and that you know, that there's stuff that resonates in there for you, that maybe, you know, triggers and inspires something for you. And if not, well, that's okay too, you know. So this is just my perspective, my take on these cards. I'm using the Shaman's Dream Oracle. Those are the cards that I'm using. So they're really beautiful and really love them. So yeah, so that's my take and my interpretation of what's coming through there, and you know, and just and feeling out into the field of experience that's happening around me at the moment as well, and the deep amazing incredible wisdom that has been coming through. So yes, thank you if you've watched this, and thank you for sharing space with me in this time. I know it's been almost an hour, or 50 minutes. I can see the clock ticking away there, and so it is quite a long reading that we've just done here. But yes, thank you, and I'll be back again at some point. Who knows when? Love and blessings. Bye.